Okay, well, welcome. This is the Shaman Initiation program. First of all, today is the fall equinox. So it's a very marked day, specifically for this class and why I chose it. The equinox is when the hours of the day are exactly the same light as they are dark. And then tomorrow starts the longer days of dark. So it's a really marked day for this. And the totem animal that we're working with this month is brown bear that hibernates and, lives in a cave. And we're going to talk about the symbolism of that. So before we start, some housekeeping, just mute yourself. You can have your video if you want. If you have any questions, please interject. It's important, especially class 1, but all classes, that I clarify anything that you have questions on. So just, interrupt me and let me know you have a question. Also, if you have not joined the Facebook group or the WhatsApp group, I sent the link to everybody via email that I did not already add on my WhatsApp if I didn't have your number saved. And the Face group, if you're not a friend of mine already, I couldn't add you. And I sent notification of that. You do not have to join that. It's just the community for you guys to talk amongst yourselves, and I participate and answer any questions. If you prefer not to and you just want to send me an email or a text, that's absolutely fine. I will respond to those, but just know that those other options are available, and it's really nice for others to hear if you have an experience, or if you did a journey and saw something, or if you had some experience with the medicine that you want to share. So take advantage of that, and I respond rather quickly. So either way, you can reach out to me, but in a group setting, it's really nice. So the Shaman Initiation program is a year long, and we're meeting the last Wednesday of the month, and it's from 7 to 9. There are going to be some classes that go longer, and I'll usually let you know if there's a lot of content that some classes will go longer. I know that some of you are in different time zones. If you need to leave, just leave. You will get all of the materials, the video, the syllabus, and the PowerPoint after class, if not at night, the next morning, first thing in the morning. So if you miss, just obviously leave, and or same as if you can't attend a class, just go ahead and leave, and I'll send you all the materials. Each class, you're going to get the video, you're going to get the PowerPoint that I share, and you're going to get a syllabus. The syllabus is going to be all of the teachings of the medicine for that month, ceremony, reading materials, suggested articles. There's a lot of information. So take the time to look through the resources and the links that I share there, because you're just going to enhance your learning if you really use all those extras. You don't have to, but they're for your benefit. So you guys know that I am an astrologer, so I ran the chart for today to see what the energy is that we're starting with. So I'm all about the origin story. Everything and all the things that I write and study are about at the moment of conception and when we're initiating something. So today is an initiation for each of you. And if you've been on other paths, if you've been on other traditions, there's always an initiation. And so that's what I wanted to run the chart today for, was to see what energy we were bringing in with this year. And what I found was absolutely lovely. So our sun, first day of Libra, is ruled by Venus. Our moon, so our sun is the logical, rational aspect. The moon is more of the emotional aspect, is ruled by Aries, which is Mars. And the balance of the energies is Mars and Venus. So we have Mars and Venus. And then our ascendant, which is how we're going to raise our consciousness throughout the year, is in Pisces or Neptune, which is the planet of shamanism, of spirituality, and of raising consciousness and unified consciousness. So it's actually perfect, the chart for today. The law of gender is a universal law that speaks about the balance of the energies, and that the only way to achieve wholeness and balance is balancing the energies. And by that, they mean masculine and feminine, which is Mars and Venus. So we're marked for what we call the mystical marriage of self, or what's known as the Hieros Gamos, which is our universal consciousness or shamanic consciousness and ordinary consciousness, or spiritual and material selves. So you're going to learn more about that today. So this chart was absolutely perfect for what our intention is for the year. So most of you have either taken a class with me or had a reading, but for those who may not know me that well, I wanted to share a little bit about shamanism and normally what you would get in a shaman class, what makes this class different, and then a little bit about me and how I got on the shamanic path. So in most schools of shamanism, you're going to learn basic techniques like energy medicine, dream weaving, healing, soul retrievals, different ceremonies and rituals. It's very experiential. Most shamanic traditions don't have that much teaching in terms of the didactic. This one does have a lot. You usually learn 4 directions and 4 totems, meaning 4 animals. In the Quechua tradition, which is one of the very popular ones, Botor Villoldo, who wrote this book, Shaman, Healer, Sage, and I highly recommend it. Studied with the Quechuas and lived with them in Peru and brought a lot of those teachings. So a lot of people in the Western world are familiar with those directions and those totems. The directions are the same, although I'm going to elaborate tonight on more than 4 directions. And we're doing more than 4 totems. We're doing 12 plus. So totems are considered the animal medicine that we're going to use. In the traditional 4 totem, we're looking at serpent, we're looking at jaguar, we're looking at hummingbird, and we're looking at eagle. So if you see me mention others, or you've had a shamanic healing, or you've read this book or other things from Alberto Rioldo, his organization called the 4 Winds Society, just know that it's the same concepts for each of the directions, but I'm just going more specific with more animals that represent the directions in the medicine so that you have more to pull from when something enters your life or a client's life. Most of these are purists, where they stay strict to the experiential teachings. They teach you a fire ceremony, they teach you an extraction, they teach you dream weaving, and that's it. We go way beyond in this class. And what I spend a lot of time teaching is about myth, symbol, archetypes, astrology, astronomy, depth psychology, different spiritual philosophies, 12 winds, and 12 plus totems. You're going to get a lot of didactic knowledge in this class, in addition to the experiential teaching, ceremony, and ritual that you will do on your own each month. So you're going to get a lot in terms of content in this class. I have a PhD in mental health and marriage and family therapy. I've studied and practiced metaphysics for over 30 years. My spiritual foundation is extremely strong. I've been to India. I studied Ayurveda. I studied Hermetic philosophy. I've studied a number of spiritual traditions, and I've sort of put all of them together in this program. So you're going to get a lot from a lot of different traditions, because you might already have a foundation in something spiritual, and every single spiritual tradition, when pulled back, is saying the same things. And I'm just trying to weave it all together for you so that you can pick the one that resonates. So the medicine shows up in a lot of different ways for you and for your client. And I'm going to teach you all the different ways it can show up so you know which thread to pull. So if archetypes doesn't resonate, but myth does, or symbol or ceremony, you have one or the other to pull. Of course, you can have it all, but this way you don't feel that you don't know what's happening with yourself or with the client. So when I started on this path, as most of the things in my spiritual life, it was accidental. I was sort of thrown into it. I wrote an email to somebody that had nothing to do with shamanism, and this email from this other guy showed up, and I ended up enrolling in his class, and he had been a practitioner from the Four Winds Society. So I was definitely trained in Villoldo's tradition. Then one day in meditation, I saw a shaman guide named Lone Wolf, and I got out of meditation. I said, oh, okay, that's my next teacher, assuming it was a spirit guide. Later that afternoon, I was driving and my guide said, check your phone. Lone Wolf is a real person and he's in your phone. And indeed, I called him, he picks up. I said, you showed up in my meditation today. He's like, I've been waiting for you. And he was opening a school in Miami, and I studied with him for a bit. And then I also studied with another Villoldo practitioner named Rose Hill. And I intertwined my previous Akashic records, astrology, tarot, my doctoral studies, my depth psychology studies, my myth and symbol studies with Jung, and everything from my traditional schooling all together into this program. I do mediumship, I do psychic work. My primary strength is as a subconscious shadow work practitioner. I write books and I write theories on how the shadow develops and what keeps us stuck. So I also do inner child work, and I only work with the 8 universal laws. I have a book coming out in a couple weeks on those 8 universal laws. Everything that you learn, in addition to the sort of purism of shamanism, is rooted in universal law, and everything I will teach you works because it's rooted in universal truths. It's not earthly truth, it's spiritual truth that is universal across the traditions. I've got about 10 books in the works now, either at the editing or the publishing phase, and they're all about these themes and these topics. So if you want to know about it, I probably have some experience. If not, I can direct you in the right direction. This gentleman here is Mircea Eliade. I highly, highly recommend this book. He is an absolute treasure in the shamanic literature. And he's known for famous concepts like the sacred and the profane, which I'll explain in the next slide. So you definitely want to know his writings and his teachings. He studied shamanism across cultures. And that book, Shamanism, is one of the classics in shamanism. There's also Jung and shamanism. And there are others that are listed on your syllabus, but those 3 I would say is a good place to start if you want to do additional reading. Any questions so far? Okay. So you guys signed up for a shaman class. Does anybody know what a shaman is and what the end result or the end goal of the program is?
Isn't shaman someone that walks between 2 worlds?
Yes, that's the exact definition of shaman. Do you know what the worlds mean, what these 2 worlds are?
Between the spirit world and the human world, I'm assuming.
Exactly. The material world, which has ordinary consciousness on the slide, ordinary state of consciousness. So just talking and eating and going to the bathroom and sleeping and just your normal sort of work life, daily life. And your shamanic state of consciousness. So these are known as OSC and SSC. And basically shamans, we have one foot in both worlds at the same time. So you're living your regular life, but you're in a constant inflow of information from the spirit realm. And I'm going to talk about that today. So most of you probably have had some intuitive experience or taken some classes. This will sort of grow. And what you're going to learn is how to use the information from a shamanic state of consciousness from the spirit realms to inform your ordinary life. Your ordinary life will inform your spirit world, and your spirit world will inform your ordinary life. Most people are not in balance. Most people, as my guides say, are spirit seeking matter or matter seeking spirit. And it's the union of both. One of the special things about shamanism, and I've been in this world my entire life, it is very, very common to see people that what we call dissociate from the earthly realm when they embark on these journeys of spiritual awakening. And we don't want that. We don't want you checked out of your body. So the shamanic path is an embodiment practice. It encourages being in the body and owning everything that the body offers. So what we oftentimes deem as wrong or less than or judge or impure because it's in the body that isn't perfect, whereas transcendence is, you know, sort of universal, we want to be in the body. And we encourage use of the body to lead our spiritual path, not one or the other, but both simultaneously. So that's what we're going to work on. Most people that come to you, and probably yourself at this point in your life, are in one or the other. So this program is a journey through consciousness. Right now, you have a low-level consciousness. Everyone is at a different state of consciousness. It's not a concern of which one. I'm going to share with you states of consciousness in a bit. But you will raise your consciousness in this program. You get to decide, depending on what you put into it, how much that will be. So it's work, it's spiritual work. It's becoming aware, integrating things, learning about yourself, and raising consciousness through belief change. So this model here, this inner circle model, is called the trans-theoretical model of behavior change. This is a public health model by Prochaska and DiClemente, and they say that the stages of change are pre-contemplation. You have no awareness that there's an issue or that you need to change or want to change. Contemplation, you're thinking about changing. You might want to lose some weight or let your hair grow or grow your nails or change your diet. Then you go into a preparation phase. Then you go into action. Each one of these stages tends to last about 6 months as per the research. Once you're in action, usually about 2 years, then you enter maintenance. And one of the newest parts to this model that they've added is the relapse. So we know in behavior change models that after maintenance, after going through a 2 to 3 year cycle period of change, you will go right back into the same behavior as if you never even knew it was a problem. So behavior change doesn't work. And what you're going to learn here is belief change. So the actual behavior that you're engaging in doesn't matter. It's about the process. The process is the belief change. And that's what we're focusing on. The process is linked to consciousness, raising consciousness. So you could be asleep, you could be at the second stage of consciousness, the dream state, doesn't matter. There's always more consciousness to gain. There's always consciousness to be raised. And this only happens with belief change. So you're going to be confronted with, in the monthly ceremonies and rituals and medicine, your limiting beliefs, and we all have them. And there's going to be some teachings and some medicine that's easier. You've mastered it. It's something from a past life, or you've already worked through it in this life. And maybe you just have to sort of refine that. And there are going to be other things that you're in contemplation or pre-contemplation you didn't even know was an issue. And those might cause you a little bit more struggle. So you're going to sort of monitor your progress. So this is Freud's model. And he says that this is the unconscious level. the pre-conscious, and then the conscious. So you see that the smallest piece of the iceberg is above the surface of the water, and it's the smallest. Most things are not conscious. The conscious mind contributes to about 1%, if that, of any of your decision making. So we're not conscious, these things are not conscious, and why we work with animal medicine, archetype, symbol, myth, to make things conscious. And that's my journey to help you on your journey, bring those to a level of consciousness, because once it reaches consciousness, then you can raise the vibration or the frequency above on that, not when it's stored in the subconscious. You're going to hear the word unconscious. I use subconscious. It's very common to use these interchangeably in the literature. I use subconscious. But Aghioli talks about unconscious, conscious, and superconscious. I'll show you that on the next slide. And the superconscious is that shamanic state of consciousness. That's where we're going to really hang out when we do a lot of these things, is so that we can connect more to the superconscious, that which is transcendental and beyond the body, while still being in the body. So Ascioli's model, this is his model of the different parts of the personality. The one I want to direct you to is 6, which is the transpersonal self. This is that superconscious that we're going to be referring to. Jung called it the superconscious. Blavatsky, if you don't know Blavatsky, she's sort of the head of Theosophy, and she wrote The Secret Doctrine, and she calls it the Secret Doctrine. Napoleon Hill, he's like a self-help old-time writer. He called it infinite intelligence. Waldo Emerson called it the oversoul, and Ascioli, who wrote the model of psychosynthesis, called it the transpersonal self. We're calling it the shamanic state of consciousness. And I'm going to teach you exactly how that sort of comes into your life and how to use that with synchronicity in a bit. So most of you have probably heard of the term synchronicity. So there's no coincidences. And Jung, Carl Jung, really sort of coined that particular term. And the first experience that he had of it was he was seeing a client, and he was telling her about a scarab beetle. And at that exact time, a beetle, a dung beetle, was crawling up outside the glass in his office. And it had been his first experience with synchronicity in his life. So most of you have probably experienced that type of synchronicity. I don't want to get dressed to go to Publix and you run into someone that you didn't want to see, or you're thinking about someone and they call you on the phone. So we've all had some level of that. Synchronicity is just a term for a spiritual law or universal law called the law of correspondence. We will live using this law. You will saturate the law of correspondence in this class and in these teachings. The law of correspondence in a nutshell says, as within, so without. As above, so below. Anything that's happening on this earthly plane is happening in all the planes above us. There are 7 planes in the universe. As within, so without. Anything that you're experiencing externally is a mirror or a projection of yourself. So there is no coincidence. Jung started working with Pauli, who was a quantum physicist. We now know via string theory. Ken Wilber writes about this. Many authors write about this idea of correspondence. Sometimes it's called the Akashic Record, synchronicity. We now know that this exists, that this energy field exists. It stores everything. And what changes is our will. So we will talk more about that in this class. And Gary Sparks, who's a Jungian analyst, also speaks about synchronicity, and he again reiterates the law, which is whatever's outside is reflecting your inner state of mind. Any questions on consciousness, on ordinary state of consciousness versus somatic state of consciousness? We're going to use these terms a lot. I'm kind of laying the foundation of what the rest of the year is going to look like. Okay. Now, I just noticed that my thing was flickering. Can you guys see this slide? It says synthesis.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a triangle. First symbol you're going to learn, the most important symbol you're going to learn, triangle. A triangle is the symbol of thought. Every single thing is thought. There is nothing in the universe that is not thought, that is not mental. So this triangle speaks to the unconscious, to the conscious, and to the superconscious. There are things about you that you have no clue exist. That is your unconscious or your subconscious. They're stored very, very deep down in that iceberg in Freud's model. You are not aware, you're in pre-contemplation, you do not have a clue. Your whole life, there will be things that appear. No matter how much work you've done, no matter how much spiritual, path and reading and traditions you've done, no matter how much intuition development, there are things that will continue to be stored in the unconscious that you are not aware of. Using the law of correspondence, you're going to become extremely aware of these things. And each month, as we cover a totem and a medicine, you're going to make this more conscious. And then there are things that you're very conscious of. These go together. Many of you have probably read my post or my books or had sessions, and I talk about the 0 to 100. This is the 0, you're not aware. This is the 100, you're aware. That's fine. Most of us live here.
Fran, I don't see the...
You don't see the slide on synthesis?
We don't see the triangle, no.
Oh, okay, that's why I asked, because when my Zoom starts to flicker. Okay, give me a second. Yeah, I was saying that I dropped coffee on the computer. Okay, I'm gonna come out. You guys stay. I'm gonna leave and come back. It's so annoying with the Zoom.